You know what's crazy to me? I was at a dealership last weekend, not buying anything, just watching. And I saw a guy, maybe 24, 25 years old. He's wearing a Hollister hoodie, he's got AirPods in. He walks straight past the used Toyotas, past the Hondas, doesn't even glance at them. And he stops right in front of a brand new Dodge Charger. And I could see it on his face. That look, you know the look. It's like, this is who I'm supposed to be. And the salesman walks over, and within 4 minutes, I watch this guy nod his head. And I'm thinking, bro, don't do it. He did it. And here's the thing. I'm not judging him. I've been there. Most of us have been there. But what nobody told that kid, what nobody told us, is that the car you feel rich in and the car that actually makes you rich are almost never the same vehicle. And today I'm going to show you with actual math exactly why. My name is Rehan, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people make terrible financial decisions with cars. If you're someone who either just bought a car you probably couldn't afford, or you're about to buy one and you're not entirely sure you're making the right call, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I put out videos every week breaking down the real math behind money decisions, because most of us were never taught this stuff in school, and we're out here learning it the expensive way. All right, let's get into it. So I want to start with something that genuinely surprised me when I first started researching this. When you ask most people what cars wealthy people drive, they say things like Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, maybe a Range Rover. And yeah, there are wealthy people driving those, but that's not the majority. That's the top 0.1%. What I'm talking about is the quietly wealthy, the millionaire next door, the person who's 41 years old, has a $2.3 million net worth, and is driving a 2019 Toyota Camry with 80,000 miles on it. These people exist in massive numbers, and the cars they avoid, they might actually be the cars sitting in your driveway right now. Here's what the data says. According to the 2022 Millionaire Next Door research and surveys from Ramsey Solutions, the most commonly driven vehicles among American millionaires are Toyota, Honda, and Ford. Not BMW, not Mercedes, not even Audi. Toyota is the single most popular brand among self-made millionaires in America. Now, here's what's interesting. The cars that rank highest among people who are not building wealth, people who are paycheck to paycheck, people carrying credit card debt, are disproportionately luxury brands and what I call aspirational vehicles. Things like Dodge Chargers, Dodge Challengers, BMW 3 Series on finance, used Audis, and brand new pickup trucks that cost $65,000. And I want you to really sit with that for a second. The people who have money aren't spending it on the things that are supposed to signal money, and the people who don't have money yet are spending the most to look like they do. There's a name for this. It's called Veblen signaling, but we'll get to that. Okay, let's do the math, because I think when people hear don't buy an expensive car, they think it's just generic financial advice, like yeah, spend less, save more. No, I want you to see the actual numbers, because they are genuinely shocking. Let's say you're 22 years old, you've just landed your first decent job, you're making $55,000 a year. You're looking at two options. Option A, you buy a 2019 Toyota Corolla with 45,000 miles on it for $17,000. You put $2,000 down, finance $15,000 at 7% interest over 48 months. Your monthly payment is about $359 a month. Insurance runs you roughly $120 a month because it's an older, lower value car. Total monthly cost, $479. Option B, you go to the dealership and you buy a brand new Dodge Charger. Base price, let's say $38,000. You put $3,000 down, finance $35,000 at 8% over 72 months, because that's what most people do when they're stretching to afford something. Your monthly payment is now $615 a month. But then insurance on a Dodge Charger for a 22-year-old, we're talking $280 to $350. Let's call it $300 to be conservative. Total monthly cost, $915. So the difference between option A and option B is $436 a month. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. If instead of spending that extra $436 a month, you invested it in a simple index fund averaging the historical market return of about 10% annually, here's what happens over time. In 10 years, that $436 becomes $89,000. In 20 years, it becomes $297,000. In 30 years, that single car decision is the difference of $872,000. I'm going to say that again. Choosing the right car at 22 years old over 30 years is the difference of being a millionaire and not being one. That is not an exaggeration. That is the math. And look, I know some of you are thinking, Rayhan, that's not realistic. I'm not going to perfectly invest every single month for 30 years. Okay, fair. Cut it in half. It's still $436,000. It's still life-changing money. It still might be your entire retirement, all because of one car decision. So if the math is this clear, why do so many people still do it? Why did that kid at the dealership buy the Charger? This is the part I actually find fascinating, because it's not stupidity, it's psychology. And once you understand the psychology, you stop judging people for it and you start understanding how to protect yourself from it. Number one, cars are identity, not transportation. Here's the thing about cars that's different from almost every other financial decision you make. Nobody sees your index fund, nobody sees your emergency fund, nobody drives past your savings account and thinks, wow, respect. But everybody sees your car. And we've been conditioned by advertising, by social media, by culture, to tie the car we drive to the person we are. Think about every car commercial you've ever seen. They never talk about reliability statistics or cost per mile. It's always beautiful person, winding mountain road, freedom, leather seats, you've arrived. They're not selling you a vehicle, they're selling you a version of yourself that you want to believe in. And that's powerful. That's really, really powerful, especially when you're young, when you're figuring out who you are, and you're watching people on Instagram and their Hellcats and thinking, that could be me. Number two, the showroom is engineered against you. I want to talk about this because I don't think people realize how intentional this is. Car dealerships are probably the most psychologically sophisticated retail environment ever created. Walk into a dealership and notice what hits you first. The smell of new car, the lights, the way the cars are displayed, clean and gleaming like sculptures. The salesperson who is genuinely friendly and makes you feel like they get you. And then there's the test drive, which is the single most effective sales tool in any industry, because the moment you sit in that car and feel the power and smell the leather and hear the sound system, your brain is starting to release dopamine. Your rational decision-making is literally impaired. You are, in that moment, making an emotional decision while believing you're making a logical one. Studies in behavioral economics, particularly work building on Daniel Kahneman's research on System 1 and System 2 thinking, show that consumers in a test drive experience are significantly more likely to focus on features than on total cost of ownership. The dealership knows this. The financing office knows this. The "it's only $215 more a month" speech, that's designed to make you compare to your current payment, not to what you could have done with that money. Number three, depreciation is invisible until it destroys you. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I can always sell the car later if I need to. And this is where I really want you to pay attention, because this misconception costs people tens of thousands of dollars. New cars depreciate, lose value, at a rate that genuinely defies common sense. The average new car loses 15 to 25% of its value in the first year alone. Not over 5 years, in year one. That $38,000 Charger, drive it off the lot, come back in 12 months, it's worth roughly $28,000 to $30,000 at best. You've lost $8,000 to $10,000 in 1 year just by owning it. You haven't crashed it, you haven't neglected it, you've simply owned it. By year 5, most cars have lost 50 to 60% of their original value, so that $38,000 car is now worth $15,000 to $18,000. Meanwhile, you still potentially owe close to that on the loan, depending on your down payment and term. This is how people end up underwater on their car, owing more than it's worth, and it is incredibly common. According to Edmunds data from recent years, approximately 1 in 3 Americans who trade in a car has negative equity. They owe more than the car is worth. And what do most dealerships do? They roll that negative equity into the new loan. So you're carrying the ghost of your last bad decision into your next one. Okay, so let me get specific because avoid luxury cars is too vague. There are categories of cars that are wealth destroyers disguised as status symbols, and I want to walk through them. Category 1, brand new trucks over $45,000. Look, I know trucks are a religion in some parts of this country, and I'm not saying don't buy a truck. I'm saying the average new pickup truck transaction price in America as of recent years has surpassed $55,000. That's the average. A loaded F-150, a Ram 1500 with the luxury package, a Chevy Silverado High Country, these are $65,000, $70,000, $75,000 vehicles, and the majority of people buying them are not using them as work vehicles. They're commuting, they're doing weekend trips. The bed has never seen a load of lumber in its life. A $70,000 truck financed over 84 months at current interest rates, and yes, 84-month loans on trucks are now extremely common. Automakers love this. That's a payment of roughly $1,100 to $1,200 a month, plus insurance, plus gas, because these things get 17 miles per gallon on a good day. You're talking about a vehicle that costs you $1,600 to $1,800 a month, fully loaded. That's not a car payment. That's a second mortgage on a truck you didn't need. Category 2, leased luxury vehicles. This one gets me because it's marketed as the smart option. Leasing is just renting. You're always in a new car, lower monthly payment. Here's what most people don't realize about leasing. When you lease, you are paying for the most expensive part of the car's depreciation, those brutal first 3 years, and you have nothing to show for it at the end. You hand the keys back. You have zero equity. You've rented a depreciating asset. And the lower monthly payment argument? Let's look at it. You might pay $450 a month to lease a BMW 3 Series versus $600 to buy it. Yes, that's $150 less per month, but after 36 months of leasing, you've paid $16,200 and own nothing. After 36 months of buying, you've paid $21,600 and you own a car that might be worth $22,000 to $25,000 at that point. When you account for residual equity, buying often wins, and it definitely wins over a 10-year horizon. The lease trap is real, and car manufacturers love it because it keeps you coming back every 3 years, forever. Okay, so category 3, European luxury brands after warranty. Okay, this one people don't talk about enough. A used BMW, Mercedes, or Audi sounds like a deal. You're getting a $60,000 car for $25,000, right? Except maintenance costs on German luxury vehicles out of warranty are absolutely brutal. We're talking oil changes at $200 to $300, brake jobs at $800 to $1,200. A water pump replacement on a BMW N52 engine, $1,200 to $1,800 in labor alone. Timing chain issues on certain Mercedes engines, $3,000 to $5,000 repair bill. Consumer Reports and J.D. Power reliability data consistently show that European luxury brands, particularly BMW, Mercedes, and Audi, rank significantly below Toyota, Honda, and Mazda for long-term reliability and owner cost of ownership. You paid $25,000 for the car, and you're spending $4,000 a year keeping it running. That's not a deal. That's a trap with leather seats. Category 4. Any car with more than 20% of your monthly income in payments. This isn't a specific model, it's a principle, and it's one I want you to write down or screenshot right now because it's a rule that quietly wealthy people follow almost universally. The 20% rule. Your total car payment, including insurance, should never exceed 20% of your monthly take-home pay. If you take home $3,500 a month, your maximum car cost is $700 total, payment plus insurance. Most people violating this aren't even aware they're doing it. They think about the payment, they forget to include insurance, registration, maintenance, and gas, and suddenly 35 to 40% of their income is going to a depreciating asset. Alright, so I've told you what to avoid. Let me tell you what people who are actually building wealth do, because it's not complicated, and it's absolutely achievable. Strategy 1. Buy 2 to 4 years used. This is the sweet spot that almost every personal finance expert agrees on, and for good reason. A car that's 2 to 4 years old has already absorbed the catastrophic first-year depreciation. You're buying it at $18,000 to $25,000 instead of $30,000 to $38,000, but the mechanical components are essentially still new.
If you get it inspected, do your research on the model's reliability record, you can buy with confidence. The specific vehicles that consistently top every best value used car list are the Toyota Camry, Toyota Corolla, Honda Civic, Honda Accord, and Mazda 3. These cars are boring. They are deeply, profoundly boring. They also hold their value well, have low maintenance costs, and will run for 200 to 300,000 miles with basic upkeep. These are financial weapons disguised as economy cars. Strategy 2. Pay cash when you can, or keep the loan short. Rich people don't finance cars forever. If you can't comfortably pay for a car in 36 months or less, that's the universe telling you it's too much. The financial danger zone is the 72-month, 84-month loan where you're paying interest for years on an asset that's worth half of what you paid for. The goal is to get to the point, and you can get here faster than you think, where you're buying cars with cash. When you buy a car with cash, you negotiate from a completely different position. Dealerships can't play the payment game with you. You know your total cost. You can walk away. I want to tell you about a real pattern I've seen with people who build wealth quietly. They buy a used car, they pay it off in 3 years. Then instead of upgrading, they take what would have been their car payment and invest it for 2 years. Then maybe they buy a slightly nicer used car, cash, and they repeat this cycle. Over 15 years, this approach versus financing a new car every 5 years creates a difference of $150,000 to $250,000 in wealth. I've run this math a dozen times. The conclusion never changes. Strategy 3. Total cost of ownership thinking. Here's the mental shift that separates people who build wealth from people who don't build wealth. Wealthy people don't ask, "What's the payment?" They ask, "What does this cost me to own?" Total cost of ownership includes purchase price, depreciation over time, fuel costs, which varies dramatically by vehicle, scheduled maintenance, expected repairs based on reliability data, and registration fees.
When you compare a $38,000 Dodge Charger against a $19,000 used Toyota Camry on a true total cost of ownership basis over 5 years, the Charger often costs $30,000 to $40,000 more, not because of one thing, because of everything adding up. Higher depreciation, higher insurance, higher fuel cost, higher repair likelihood, higher loan interest. That $30,000 to $40,000 difference over 20 years in the market is potentially $200,000 plus. Over a working life, car decisions like this might literally determine whether you retire comfortably or work until you physically can't anymore. We've established that expensive cars are a bad financial decision. We've done the math, but people keep buying them. Why? Because the people they're trying to impress are not impressed. I want you to think about this carefully. Morgan Housel, who wrote The Psychology of Money, one of the most important personal finance books of the last decade, made an observation that I think about constantly. He said, "People want to buy a Porsche because they think other people will admire them when they see them in a Porsche. But what actually happens is people see the Porsche and they think about themselves in a Porsche. They don't think about you at all. You are not the main character in anyone else's life story. You're a background extra. The car you drive to signal status to strangers, those strangers are not keeping score. They've already moved on, but you are keeping score. You're the one sitting with the $900 a month payment. You're the one who can't max out your Roth IRA this year because the Charger is eating your budget. You're the one who can't take the trip, start the business, invest in the opportunity because 35% of your take-home pay is going to a machine that's losing value every single day. And here's something that really hit me when I learned it. Research on hedonic adaptation, which is the human tendency to return to a base level of happiness regardless of positive changes in circumstances, shows that within 3 to 6 months of buying a new car, your emotional response to it normalizes completely. That dopamine rush is gone. The leather seats are just leather seats now. The car that was going to change how you feel about yourself doesn't. It's just a thing you own. But the payment, that's real every single month for 6 years. This is the cycle that keeps people broke. Not laziness, not lack of income. The cycle of spending for feelings that don't last, on things that lose value, financed at interest rates that compound against you. All right, enough diagnosis. Let's talk about what you actually do if you're watching this and recognizing yourself in this video. Step 1.
Know your actual number. Right now, today, calculate your total monthly car cost, payment plus insurance plus gas plus what you estimate for maintenance. If that number is above 20% of your take home pay, you've got a problem that needs addressing. Step 2. If you're upside down, stop digging. If you currently owe more on your car than it's worth, do not trade it in and roll that negative equity into a new loan. That is financial quicksand. Instead, keep the car, pay it down aggressively, and the moment you have positive equity, make a move towards something more sensible. Step 3. Build the car fund. This is what the wealthy do. They treat their car like a planned expense, not a surprise. When your car is paid off, keep making that payment but into a dedicated savings account. 2 years of saving $400 a month is $9,600. 3 years is $14,400. That's a solid used car purchase with cash, no financing needed, and it gets easier every cycle. Step 4. Decide what you're actually optimizing for. This is the question I want you to sit with. When you're standing in that dealership and your hand is on the hood of that car, what are you actually buying? Are you buying transportation, or are you buying a feeling that probably won't last? There's no wrong answer. If you're financially solid, if your retirement is funded, your emergency fund is full, your investments are running, and you want a nicer car, fantastic. Enjoy it guilt-free. That's what money is for. But if you're buying the feeling before you've built the foundation, you're borrowing from your future self to impress your present self. And your future self is going to be furious. Step 5. Choose the boring vehicle and invest the difference. I'll say it plainly. Buy the Camry, buy the Civic, buy the Corolla, drive it for 10 years, maintain it, let it be boring, and every single month take the difference between what you would have spent and put it in a low-cost index fund. Do that for 10 years and check back in. You will have options, real options, and options are the thing that money is supposed to buy you. I want to leave you with this. There's a guy I know, real person, won't use his name, who at 26 bought a BMW 5 Series, financed. He loved it. It felt like he had arrived. At 28, the transmission went out. $4,200 repair, not covered by the expired warranty. At 30, he was still making payments on a car that was worth significantly less than he owed. He was making $75,000 a year and had $4,000 in savings. The car was beautiful. His financial life was a mess. He sold it, took the loss, bought a used Honda Accord for $14,000 cash, freed up $900 a month, put $600 a month in index funds, used $300 to rebuild his emergency fund. Within 4 years, he had $40,000 invested and a 6-month emergency fund. He is now in his mid-30s with genuine financial momentum for the first time in his adult life. And you know what he told me? He said the hardest part wasn't the financial decision. The hardest part was caring less about what other people thought of what he drove. It took about 6 months, and after that 6 months after, he stopped thinking about it entirely. That is the shift. Caring less about signals, caring more about outcomes. The rich person in the used Camry doesn't care what you think about their car. They care about their net worth. They care about their options. They care about their freedom. The person financing the aspirational car cares deeply what you think, and that caring is costing them everything. You do not have to be rich to start thinking like someone who's building wealth. You just have to be willing to make a few boring decisions that your future self will thank you for. I'm Rehan. If this video made you think differently about your car situation or any financial decision, subscribe, leave a comment below. I read every single one. And if you've got a friend who you know is about to make a terrible car decision, send them this video. Might be the most valuable thing you do for them this year. I'll see you in the next one.